My name is Ryan Miller. I am the founder of Parent Dome, where I broadcast on Friday evenings on a multicast. I have Periscope running this evening. I have Blab at blab.im, and I'm also broadcasting for those that want the big screen experience at Nissan Communications. So I will be responding to comments that are happening on Periscope in accordance with my terms of service. This is very important. And I'm going to go over this and turn my volume down a little bit. It's very important for this message tonight because I've had to modify my terms of service relative to my live streaming broadcast because of this past week. This past week has been an overwhelming abundance of behavior that should be reported. It was unbelievable, the storm that has come through on the social media platform. So for my Periscope audience, Blackouts, good evening to you, my friend, that because of my broadcast being available to people on replay, and that I share this content because I do a fair amount of teaching on here, those people that violate my terms of service will not be recognized. I will not respond to comments. I will not address you directly. I am not a parrot. I'm just going to skip over your content completely. Because on my replay viewers, when I block people, there is no comment in who I'm addressing. So I'm pretty much talking to a ghost. And there's no context when I speak to a ghost. So if people are violating my terms of service, and I give them the ability to see that on Periscope, this bit.ly link is a live video that people can watch and listen as to how I handle the broadcast. And very simply, it's if you can adhere to a G-rated movie. The language is in relationship to a G-rated movie, so there's no profanity or disruption. And questions are related to the topic I'm addressing tonight. And tonight I'm going to be talking again about DeFoo, which nobody knows what the heck that is, and I have evidence for it, and I'm going to be educating people on the reality of DeFoo. And I'll explain to that in a moment. I'm going to move forward. A lot of my broadcasts on live streams are available at catch.me/parent_dome. And very important link, and hurts my feelings to know how many times this has to be downloaded. That's very true, Blackouts. There was a note that Periscope has been changing their behavior and Catch has been changing their behavior for video archives, that they are leaving comments up and taking comments down. And this is just the flushing out of how to handle recorded live stream video. In the recordings on YouTube live stream, they do not have that interactivity of comments. On live Facebook live stream, they're part of your news feed. But this download here is for those kids who are on social media platforms and live streaming that are considering self-harm. These are those kids that are concerned that possibly may be taking their lives. And unfortunately, this week I had an ad this morning to another child who took their life on live stream. It's horrible. Parents, my message is a desperate message. my message is to you and your relationship with your children. And I make this bit.ly link available. And it's really interesting. The Periscope community is saying to me, Ryan, it's like trying to shovel grains of sand back into the ocean because it's an overwhelming issue, that this disruptive and bad stuff that's happening on the internet. And I said, you know what? It is true. I am one person that is trying to do something, draw awareness and attention to the dangers, risks, threats, and permanence of the internet. And I'm going to continue to shovel that sand back into the ocean because these children have parents, and their parents, there's not communication there. So I want to take a step back, and because today this happened on my broadcast, that I was speaking to a woman, and her name was Christine, and she was engaged in the dialogue and what I was speaking about, dangerous risks, threats of being children unsupervised on the internet. And I was making my points, and she said she was convicted. And I said, if you have this, and she was communicating on the broadcast that she was feeling guilty. And I said, this is not what I want to have happen, because I tell you parents, you do the best you can with what you know right now. Right now. I don't come at this as judgment. And Blackouts is saying that I'm stuck in a loop, because for every 4 that I rescue, that there are 4 that just pop up, and it is true. And for those that know me, I will stand guilty as charged for those few that I tried to rescue, as opposed to those that I don't. That I'm glad that I did something here, even though I failed. The ones that I have saved, are somebody's kids. And those parents are thankful, even though they may not tell me so, they're thankful that their child is still with them because of the things that I have done. But this woman was feeling convicted in her heart for the things that I was talking about and the awareness of what her child may be doing on the internet. And she said, she was feeling horrible. And I said, understand, I have said nothing in judgment of you. None of that came out of my mouth. The feelings you are having emerge in you are that inner critic that's saying, that's labeling me, calling you a bad parent, or you are just doing it inside yourself that you have fallen short. That's not my words. Take that inner critic and remove them from this discussion, because I come here with my hand out and I'm here to help, not judge, because it's all about loving our children. And I would hope that people can go back to my broadcast this morning on periscope.tv/parent_dome. Go to that broadcast and see what that was like, because it's a very powerful Periscope for myself. But it is one that I'm reaching out to families, to parents, to caregivers, to help their children. No judgment. I'll give you the tools and resources to navigate this place where once your awareness and conscience gets pierced, I don't leave you there. This is all about an educational platform that deals with you where you are in relationship with your child. I make no representation. It's a completely wide world, and family dynamics are all over the place. And my audience on Periscope is the rainbow of humanity. And I love them all. And I stick my hand out to them all. And I say, here is where we can start. Start with understanding and the awareness. And then we talk about the agreement as to how to have that conversation and role play. So I wanted to get that out. So thank you for my Periscope audience and for bearing with me as I go through this. Blab, have an awesome evening tonight. I'm looking forward to that interaction as well. If you do so desire on Nissan Communications to have some dialogue with me, you're pleased to do that. You can do that by dialing 919-518-9773, or you can come in via Skype at Computers 2K Voice. So I want to share a story. Oh my gosh, yes, it was this morning's story was a difficult message, but I want to share something that happened from the Blab community that was very powerful. So I was in a joint Blab with a gentleman named Brandon, talking about cybersecurity. Then out of the blue popped someone in, a young man who is 22 years old,
who has learning disabilities, is heightened sensory affect, which means that he is easily brought on anxiety based upon being overstimulated. And he has certain tools, devices, equipment that help him manage that anxiety. And he participated in Blab. He came on screen, and he had been abused inside the Blab community because this person doesn't speak. They have to use a speech-to-text type of communication. His appearance was different because this is a person that has physical equipment to help him deal with his anxiety, and he was literally roasted and abused by the community within Blab. And somehow he found out about me, and he came into the side role of the conversation on Blab. And he stayed in the side role communicating with me. I had talked to the host of the Blab and said, this is something that he knew I could handle it. I had a conversation with this young man outside of his hosted seat inside about cyberbullying. Oh my gosh, you did very good. I wasn't aware that other people saw that. And in turn, I had a lovely conversation with this young man. And I said, I want to help, support, protect, and keep him safe on the internet. Not my job, but if he comes into my environments on live streaming, I control my environment. So he can come into my broadcasts, whether it be on Periscope or whether it be on Blab. When I'm a host on Blab, I will keep him safe because the stuff that happens on the chat roll, I will remove. If those people cannot contribute to the conversation or support this individual, they will be removed from the conversation because as the host, that is something that I control. In the other part of the conversation in the Periscope audience, if he comes into my broadcast and participates there, my audience knows how I manage that broadcast. And on the Nissan communication, I don't have this issue whatsoever, which is kind of a relief. So I invited this young man, to join me on Periscope and one of my favorite broadcasters. I've shared this with you before. It is a puppet. His name is Puppet Kevin. I'm actually going to be inviting Puppet Kevin to do a broadcast with me on Blab, and I'm going to introduce Puppet Kevin to the Blab audience, and I'm going to do a simulcast with that as well on Periscope, and that is going to be a great joy. Well, he joined Puppet Kevin the other night on a live broadcast. Puppet Kevin didn't know it, my audience didn't know it, but I knew it, because in that broadcast on Periscope is a whole area of children with special needs that are being lifted up and entertained by this puppet broadcast. But that also there's a tremendous amount of people on the internet that want to destroy and wreak havoc on a puppet Periscope. This has been happening to me this past week at an exponential rate. And it actually happened during one of my broadcasts that I had so many people come in that my audience, my regular audience that tunes into my broadcast, was being affected. And what I did is I put on music. It's actually this song. And that I had the music playing in the background. I had my audience be quiet, and it was a cleansing period of time that all of this evilness that was present on Periscope inside my broadcast, the good people were quiet, and the evil came out on Periscope. And I just sat here listening, and I smiled, said a little prayer, and I just removed the evil from the broadcast, one at a time. And for 7 minutes, I had to go through this cleansing experience for my audience on Periscope and for myself. And it was a very difficult exercise. Thank you very much for that, Ivory Coast. I appreciate that, because that was a difficult exercise, to say the least. Somebody was recognizing that was in that broadcast and saw it happen. And when I go through that blocked experience, I'm doing it simply because these people have rejected this request. It's a G-rated broadcast. We don't need profanity here. I have minor children in participation. You can contribute, you can sit and listen, or you can remove yourself from the broadcast. These are very simple requests, but all of these people could not contain themselves to do that. So those people wound up being blocked, and they become part of the Black Lives Matter, because I say all life matters, and this is just a way to describe the consequence of those people on Periscope that wind up getting blocked. That's the term that's used on Periscope. And then I just treat them and hold them accountable for how they behaved in my live broadcast. Speaking love, truth, and life. I'm consistent. But because I've been doing this for some time, I have been gathering all of this data on these different people, the different types of people, where they come from, what they say, the frequency that they say, the different accounts that they come in under. And I'm able to draw some, it's like puzzle pieces that haven't been going together until I heard of, for the first time, the words DeFoo. That is the letter capital D, small letter E, capital F-O-O. And I don't know if anybody has heard of that, but I'm going to tell you, it's departure from family of origin. That sounds like a mess. But what it is, it's an ideology that supports that children have no obligation to stay inside the family unit. There is no obligation from birth to maintain inside the family. This isn't a utopian ideology that we as individual creatures can make whatever decision we want. And if things are too friction, or you're not getting value that you identify as value, that you should be empowered to exit the family. I have not done my complete study on this at all, because I think it's a bit of a rabbit hole that I'm going to go down. But when I was doing my study, and I got about 4 web pages and content into it, it is about breaking apart the family unit. When I did my first analysis of this is going to sound politically incorrect, but unfortunately, I'm not a politically correct kind of person. That this ideology is being manifest in very extremist groups. Extremists want to create separation. They want to create this individual. The extremist jihadists, let's call it ISIS, not ISIL, say ISIL is not real, ISIS is real, that those people that want to perpetuate that ideology of radical jihad are recruiting people. They're recruiting them from the United States. And they use this ideology to separate and create a wedge in the family. Cults do this as well. Well, I won't call DeFoo as an organized cult, but it is definitely a cult. So when I was reading this, I went back into all of my data, because this is all spreadsheet, Gantt sheet type of managed data that I have. Pivot tables. And I'm looking at this and I'm trying to pull similarity from what I just read to what is happening in my own experience online. So let me share with you some of the things that are happening in this social media space. Part of the dangers and risks and threats and permanence that is real. That people on social media, I often say, are based upon anonymity. There is no ability to know exactly who someone is without doing some additional research, but the presence that people come in can be an alias. And there's a huge percentage of people that are fictitious or alias on social media. So if one identity gets terminated, as in Periscope it gets blocked or it gets reported on Blab or it gets whatever, these people go out and create another entity. Well, I have been tracking that through this data. I've recognized when I see one account and they invite people, I see the characters that come in right after that invitation. All of this data is available to me through what I do on my live streaming broadcasts. And I started seeing some behavior puzzle pieces emerge. The puzzle pieces got very connected when I was introduced into DeFoo. When I started studying that, what I saw was consistent was this group of people that would come into my broadcast with the sole purpose and communication was to separate kids from their parents. Language is very tricky, very crafty, but they're trying to pull these people in a certain direction. And they're succeeding because they're building an alliance with people that have a similar view that they want to exhibit a certain kind of behavior on live stream. It was very unfortunate when those puzzle pieces were coming together for me and I could go back and see that these people are tied to this kind of communication, this kind of mission that is to drive a wedge between the parent and the child. The starfish and the spider. It's very true. The starfish and the spider. So when I come onto my live stream broadcasts and speak to people, I want to talk about awareness. I want to talk about what kind of oversight I suggest or recommend, and then to use levels of control to keep our kids safe. Well, the awareness piece is taking a whole nother dimension for me because I know the awareness of a kid participating on an app. I understand those dangers, them going into chat roulette or Omegle or them probably popping up onto some porn. Those are very real. Their encounter with the sexual predator is very high, and how they may be able to handle that is based upon how a parent has spoken into them and built up resilience in them and given them the ability to discern or have wisdom on this communication. Those things are real, and I think parents have recognized at this point that those things are real. The probability of their child, they may discount the reality of what their probability of getting into this is, but they know it's there. But this other element, the premeditated grooming to not for sexual conquest, for isolation conquest. So I'm going to jump over here for a second. If Julie made a comment, what is this world coming to? And this world has always been this way. The digital communication just makes it much more easy and rapid for us to see it. It becomes very close. What may have been remote at another time, it's very close now. So if those people want to communicate with me on Nissan, you can call in at 919-518-9773 and or come in via Skype at Computers 2K Voice. And I'm trying to keep my eye on Blab as well. It's really tough for me because so I mentioned today that I had to add another purple Post-it note on my wall. And that was a very painful experience for me. One, going through it, being involved to the point where the first responders were there, but they weren't able to save the child in time. So the child was lost. My heroic efforts were, timing wasn't on my side. Timing wasn't on my side. God saw fit that life was to go. And that's a hard thing for me to endure. But what is really hard for me to endure is the amount of people that are on social media that are driving this kind of behavior. And as I talk about this, people say that I'm doom and gloom, and I'm really not doom and gloom. I'm just dealing with the reality as it hits me on the face, trying to be an educator to draw people aware of this. to draw awareness to parents that this is what's going on. And I don't want to leave people hanging there. So when I was talking to Christine this morning and she was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've dropped the ball. You haven't. You just came into here and I pulled the curtain back and you're like, yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, it's real. And I hear it's real. You told me about Webkins and I'm like, oh my gosh, and she started feeling guilty. And I'm like, no, this is not guilt. This is not judgment. This is me giving you a tool and a resource to help take these steps. Because I say you can't know what you don't know. You can only know what you do know right now. And when you encounter someone like me who is passionate, convicted, I have all the data and statistics behind me. I'm not saying it to scare you. I'm saying it to prepare you and that give you the tools and resources to be prepared. So one thing that I did do this past week is that I responded to a need of my audience because many people want to catch me live, but they knew I do a lot of broadcasts because of things happening in this world, that I created a newsletter. So by going to this website, parentdome.com, there's a link that says insert email, get a free newsletter. And I've been sending that newsletter out every day, which is a bit much, but there's people in my audience that want that level of communication. They want to keep up to date with what I'm doing. And I send that out and it's got each of my broadcasts, which are on replay, that people can fast forward, which is a beautiful thing on replay. You can skip ahead or get to areas that you just want. So I'm making that newsletter available for all audiences for free. Just put your email in and get the newsletter. Then I provide some other things on the newsletter, which I think are important. One, there's a video link for people to get personal insight into me. A little bit more. I give you the ability to peel the layer of onion back to see why I am the way I am and why I'm so passionate about it. And see what has happened in my life's journey to put me here today. Then there's another video in there that talks about, it's an overview of the University of Information so people know what is he talking about that's behind on the membership. And I walk people through it. I don't open every single lesson up because that would take too long. But I wanted to give a short video overview as to what that membership looks like and how it keeps getting updated. And then I provide other special offers that may pop up or free content as I find it that may be appropriate for people. And there's another aspect here. At the site, I provide all my social media links, such as my Facebook page. On my Facebook page, several times a day, I am dropping bombs on the Facebook page, both that are very good, encouraging, and uplifting, they're like, wow, I really needed that dose because I need that. I need a positive infusion because I am immersed in a world of some pretty depraved stuff. So I need to get my batteries recharged. But also I put in some conscience piercing stuff. So like today, a friend of mine shared something with me, the dozen, what was it, Jamie? Jamie, you shared it with me today. It was the dozen worst companies tied to or related to exploiting sexual exploitation. That's okay, Carolyn. I go off track all the time. And I'm not keeping up with all the comments because I'm kind of ADD at the moment. But she shared something with me, which was the top 12 companies, the Dirty Dozen list. That's exactly right, the Dirty Dozen list, who are directly attached to sexual exploitation, sex trafficking in certain senses, and objectification of pornography and hardcore pornography. And when I saw the Dirty Dozen, I was looking at names, and I have no shame in saying some of these names. Verizon, HBO, Starwood Resorts, which is Hilton and hotel chains. But the one that got me the most, the one that rang my bell, was the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice and our current administration is not going after those that are violating these obscenity laws. We have an epidemic happening on live stream. There is violation after violation after violation of what is pornographic, illegal, constitutionally, Supreme Court illegal, and it's an epidemic, but our administration, the Department of Justice, will not appoint an attorney to litigate, to enforce existing laws on this topic. So I took everything stems from there. You have no law unless you have the enforcement of a law. And when I uncovered that, and I read through it, and I downloaded some videos about that, I thought, oh my gosh, we really do want to wind up like Rome, because we have laws on the books about appropriate use that should be happening on social media, on all platforms. And it is, sexting is part of this. Sexting is in that violation as well. Sri Baba, good to see you, Roanna. I am on Blab right now too, by the way, dear. So if you wanted to hop over to Blab, you can see me in that room too. Or you can go to Nissan Communications and see it there. Also, it's like 2-2. So this is a fundamental shift in where we're heading as a country. And we have laws on the books to prevent this behavior. Good deal. To prevent this stuff. But right now, for the past, since 2008, this has not been a concern. It is not being enforced. And sometimes you want to be of the people, for the people, by the people. The people want it, but our government is not supporting us in that side. So in that awareness, that one guy, good to see you. In that awareness, the burden is more heavily on us as parents to be aware that our government is not going to be policing the internet for us. The internet is, the government is not going to be enforcing what is happening on the internet for us. I never made a suggestion that they would, but this just put an exclamation point behind it, that this is up to us. And if we get trapped in a violation, which is illegal inside of our family, I promise you the government is going to do very well in extracting money from us because of a violation. They're not going to do it to corporations to hobble them, but they will do things to extract money from its citizens. That sounds very tinfoil hattish, but that is what I have seen play out over and over again. That sexed image that was passed on by the child gets the misdemeanor, but the parent's going to be out of a job, on the national predators list, and a big fine. That's not anecdotal, that is historical. That is what has been happening. So I want to take a step back and say, I don't want this to sound like doom and gloom. It's not my desire whatsoever. This is about the reality of what is happening inside this digital space. And I often say that absent of any evidence of what your children are doing on the internet, any statement you make about them is just a story. You need evidence that supports the story. And unfortunately, because of, I don't know, I'm hoping it's not the way I say things, because I'm saying I'm not being judgmental. I'm saying I'm giving my hand to help you when you have this additional awareness. But I know when I get to certain points in my message that people have changed the channel. They have moved on to watching NCIS or whatever they're watching, because this, I believe this inner critic becomes too hard. And I want to tell people to get rid of that inner critic and have a conversation with me that is based upon love and get the help. And this is not, this is meant to be a routine. whatever your routine is, it's meant to be part of the routine. That if you just do one thing at a time, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, once a week, sit down with your child and have that conversation. Hey, kid, I love you. I totally love you. I think you've got really good character. I don't think that you are a person that will get involved in some of this stuff. I really believe that. But my objective as a parent is to keep you safe in all that I can know. And right now, I've learned something more from listening to this guy. And he has made my awareness go a little bit wider. And I just want to have the ability that I can check in with you, child, because I'm seeing that there's a lot of trauma going on out there. And I'm not suggesting you're doing it, son, daughter. I'm not suggesting that at all. But I want the visibility that I can take a peek and you can share with me. And what is starting to happen with the people that are in my family, they're recognizing what I've said when I've talked to those presentations, when I do those presentations at the school, and that the kids don't want to ask their parents to keep them safe, to control them, to give them additional restraint. They don't want to ask for that. But the kids do want is the parents to say, I love you in action. I love you in action. They don't want to ask their parents to love them. They want to see their parents invested in them to demonstrate that they love them in action. So when I start, the very first thing I give people is a boilerplate agreement. It's the pacing step of starting a relationship with your child. I even give people information on how do you have this first conversation? How do you start this conversation? If it's a young child, this way. If it's the child, this way. And Lily just mentioned that children always need to feel safe. Unfortunately, in the school presentations, they are not feeling safe, and they want their parents to protect them. They know that their parents aren't protecting them, but they're not going to ask their parents to protect them. And that has been consistent from presentation to presentation to presentation. That's what the kids are saying. Parents are saying, not my kid. My kid's not involved in this. The kids are saying, Ryan, absolutely. We know what you're talking about. We see it, we hear it, we do it. So there's an obvious disconnect between what the parents are saying and what the kids are saying. And the parents and kids aren't talking. They're not in the same sphere, because the kids know all about this. They know about it, they see it, and they do it. And their parents are like, and they think it's comical that their parents are so clueless. And I'm saying pretty much, your parents aren't clueless. They are not. They just don't know how to deal with it. And that's kind of why I'm here, is to help them to deal with it. So what the people in the family and parent dome, I start with that first agreement, that boilerplate agreement, which is just a template. It's some things that I put together based upon various family dynamics, which are talking points. And everybody's family is different, so you need to pick and choose and add or enhance or subtract based upon the dynamic of your family. And after that is completed and all the family members sign it, the kid, which immediately was kind of pushing back during that conversation, is now hugging and loving the parents and saying, thank you. I knew this was bad, but I didn't know how to go. I didn't know what to do. And you, mom and dad, are telling me what you're going to do. And now they immediately feel safer. Now the journey's going to be a little uncomfortable because they had so much freedom, but their joy level goes up. So on the heels of that, this past week, I suggested two things. One thing was to take a technology fast. Pick a day, any day, pick a period of time. I don't care, whatever it is, and physically unplug. I want to read this comment so everybody hears it. Yes, and at times can be a dilemma for the teen because they get bullied also. Very, very true. And they don't want the parents to step in because they will beat up worse. That's very true. And that is part of what I do in the role-playing conversation. Because when you identify certain things, people automatically, I'm not suggesting this of you, Lily, at all. This is just a springboard for a comment. That when oversight begins and you're able to peer into what your child is doing and see something that is alarming, that you have the ability to see it and make a decision to how you want to address it and if you want to address it. And that you can let your child, even as while you're watching them go down this path, to make their own reasoned decisions as they go down this journey. So you can let them navigate on their own. You can step in at any time and speak in metaphor, so you're not exposing the exact words that they're saying in a situation. Or you can say, I got to deal with this issue. I'm going to take it head on. I'm pulling this text and communication out, and we're talking about it and address it. But you've got all of this other area that can navigate through that conversation to protect your child from getting bullying. Lily was commenting back, that's exactly how I handled it. This was 3 years back. It's not easy to be a stranger today. It's not easy today to be a teenager. And that's absolutely correct. It is not easy. It's very, very hard. It's very hard because the peer pressure and the ability to create instant harm and get instant feedback, that the internet is just so quick and it's permanent and there's no tone in text. And all of the things that happened to me in a live stream experience, hold on one second for myself. I want to say, if you want to continue in that discussion, comment on at Nissan at 919-518-9773 or come in at Computers 2K Voice. So I want to, these days, the talk is no longer sufficient by itself. We now have to have talks. Yes, we do. Yes. That is a very true statement, because we do need to have conversations, and it is, the conversation is not what it used to be, because many, many years ago, there used to be socialization at the dinner table. There used to be a dialogue. There used to be time. When I was suggesting the unplug from the internet, somebody said, just shut the refrigerator door and turn off your circuit breaker so you have no mistake that everything is off. And I thought that was a beautiful statement, because your food will keep for like 6 hours. I'm not suggesting you shut off your electricity for that period of time, but it's get back to the time of interacting outside of this virtual connection. Break out the Jenga stacking, get the cards under a candlelight. Get away from this digital, hunched over, flat screen immersed experience. And do it for a period of time. Just a little period of time, to get back into the flesh relationships, because this digital immersion is sucking your children, sucks adults too. It sucks me, because I'm right now, I got these screens right in front of me. I'm spending a fair amount of time with screens in front of me, addressing people that are spending all their time in front of screens. Guilty as charged. Guilty that I have to physically unplug and get face to face with my family. I'm guilty. But I want to also speak to others about how not to get pulled down this pipe. The external identity locus draw is strong, and it has already got its clutches in kids. Elementary school now, kids are getting connected technology pre-8 years old. Pre-8 years old. There's no wisdom that's accumulated in a child at that age on how to navigate through the risks and dangers. Don't know. One of the women was convicted in my broadcast because I pointed out where some of these things are right now. And I think she let her child use one of those things. And I think it scared her to death. And that's not my intention. I'm just saying, this is what's real. And if this is happening outside your visibility, they're at risk. Now you know, let's do something about it. Let's do something. Let's put something in place to keep your child safe. You knew something now, let's address it. Do I have any questions that people want to throw in from Blab and or from Periscope? I'd be willing to. Oh, wow, this is really good. Okay, so it's a related topic, David, that one guy. He was asking me, what are my thoughts on what is happening with the FBI and Apple? And I think there's, this is going to come across as a very difficult answer. I'm on the side of Apple. That I'm a constitutional. I know that we are a constitutional republic in our country. So this is an international audience, but in the U.S., we are a constitutional republic. We have a constitution, we have a Bill of Rights, and we are afforded certain protections. And those protections, we should be free from being violated from pressure and or extortion from the government. The government works for us. We don't work for the government. So in this situation, my view, if this is the case, if the FBI is asking for the Apple keys, access to the keys for the government to have access to open Apple devices, I say no. I need to clarify here for those people in my Periscope audience, I adhere to a terms of service. This is a profane-free broadcast, no profanity. So if the government is actually wanting to get to acquire the keys, security keys from Apple to decrypt and open up all phones, or phones that the government chooses, I say no, absolute no. No matter what the extenuating circumstances, that would be their rationalization to ask for those keys. Because these are just morally relativistic arguments in order to want to compel somebody to do something. It's correct. It's the keys to the kingdom. So I equate this logically. Okay, I will do that a little bit, Roanna. That negotiating with terrorists has been a U.S. policy that you never do that. Because once you open that door, you've already set the precedent that you will concede to other terrorist demands. So U.S. policy has always been, you do not negotiate with terrorists. Even when we had the hostages in Iran, our government did not negotiate, and it took someone like Ross Perot's organization, EDS, which was a non-government organization, to go in and do something to get those people out. There was no negotiation. They went in and got them out. Well, our country has made alternate decisions in that we have done exchanges of negotiating with terrorists. So this is what we have done. That's a precedent that's been set forth that there will be future potential negotiations with terrorists. This instance is that they're saying, we want the keys to the castle to open up all security from Apple, give us all the keys to the kingdom, because we got this one issue that was bad. And absolutely, that one issue is bad. That one atrocity that happened inside of our country is bad. But I personally would put myself as the family and the victim of that atrocity. And I would say, you know what? I'm not going to demand that for the sake of the constitutional protections afforded of all the other citizens in my country. Yes, it would have been horrible if my family was lost through such an atrocity. And to have the ability to do something to seek justice on an individual by opening up that phone, or seek justice on other individuals on that phone. You know, that's valid. That's valid. But I'm saying not at the cost of my constitutional freedoms. And I would not cross that line. Now, we are in a society right now where the Constitution has pretty much been ripped and shredded and torn, and freedoms are not what freedoms were. The brothers and sisters that have borne blood on the battlefield are third-class citizens. Our country does not respect them. Our leadership does not respect them. And I'm saying, Apple, hold your ground. From this constitutional-minded person, hold your ground. The government's wrong. The government is wrong. The government has the capability of being wrong because it's got humans. I'm sorry, a black robe or a white robe doesn't distinguish me with you. That black robe tells me, yeah, you have the ability to sit on a bench of an unelected position and rule over our country with some Supreme Court hammer. But that robe doesn't mean anything to me, because you can still be wrong wearing that robe. So I appreciate that that question, that one guy. I don't know if you were prepared for that that response. I don't know. Let me bump back over here and see if Julie said anything. These days, it's the birds and the bees and the pedophiles and the phone. Larry, welcome back. Oh, it's a different Larry. Sorry. Oh, good. Okay, so that was, and I would go deeper in that topic, but this is a live streaming platform, and I already know some of the people that watch me, and that's just, I can't go too far astray on that topic, but I'm sorry, just need to take those people that don't understand the terms of service and appropriate conduct on social media and remove them. So I want to remind people that if you have not already signed up for the Parent Dome newsletter, I will be taking feedback. If people want additional content in that, I am going to change the frequency. Instead of doing it every day for people and loading up your inbox, I'm going to probably go to one time a week. It'll be a bigger newsletter. We went over an hour about this topic last Sunday on, oh, we did. Great. Sorry about that, Amnon. Sometimes it gets, whoops, I'm sorry. So I wanted to bring one other thing to, oh shoot, where did it go? Where'd my book go? Oh, here it is. So when I make, I want to say that when I am doing my lessons inside of the academic platform, that I provide the research that supports some of the opinions that I have. So I provide the research papers and the white papers that are coming from the academic institutions and those skilled in that art for people to read themselves. And a lot of my information is not opinion. It's coming from me rephrasing and paraphrasing other people skilled in the art. So right now, I want to share with you that I'm going through this book. It's called The Collapse of Parenting. And this is just one of many. I read a tremendous amount of books. And this is by Leonard Sachs. He's an MD and he is a PhD. He has written 4 other books, which I have enjoyed, that are dealing with all aspects of parenting. And I will be, I'm gonna share something with you right now, that he has traveled all over the world and looked at all different societal relationships over years. The man's been in practice for over 20 some odd years. He's a University of Pennsylvania MD and PhD graduate. He did his residency in Washington, D.C. and the Maryland area. He's got a private practice that moved back into Pennsylvania. He's a very well-known clinician in the field of parenting and psychology. But he makes this assessment that what I've talked about before, I'm getting short on time, but he talks about that there's been what I refer to a change in the relationship from a parent to a child to more of a friendship-based relationship. And that it's the children have more say in the relationship than the parents do. It's a shift, that there is no hierarchy anymore, that the parents and child are on equal footing. So I just want to read his quick diagnosis. Here's my diagnosis. Over the past 3 decades, there's been a massive transfer of authority from parents to kids. Along with that transfer of authority has come a change in the valuation of kids' opinions and preferences. In many families, what kids think and what kids like and what kids want to know matters as much or more than what their parents think and like and want. Let kids decide has become a mantra of good parenting. As I will show, these well-intentioned changes have been profoundly harmful to kids. Now, I've just begun this book and I hope to complete it tonight. He's going to go through 3 different areas where he is going to bring evidence that supports his thesis statements that has fundamentally transformed the relationship of the family dynamic. So this is the kind of stuff that I bring to the platform, that I take this research and I write it in a language that people can understand and put it in the appropriate module as far as keeping your kids safe. Oh, yes, it's Leonard Sax, S-A-X, ND, PhD. He's very well known. He's written several books on the various aspects of parenting, for those that The Collapse of Parenting by Leonard Sax. Now this is not like a Barnes & Noble book, unfortunately. This is not a Barnes & Noble book. This is an academic book. So like Barnes & Noble, this would be like $15. This is a $50 book. So just keep that in mind. I think wait until it comes out in paperback or let it get into my lesson. But if you have the $50, there you go. So I want to thank you all for tonight. I hope I wasn't too far all over the place, and thank you, Amnon, for redirecting me appropriately. And please, if you have questions, I'm going to hold up my email address here. My email is technoevanguy@gmail.com. You can screenshot it on Periscope, or I'm trying to get back here because I can't see all these things. Oops. That is my email, technoevanguy, and I'll write that in the chat roll so if people want to communicate with me. So thank you all. I'm going to end our show tonight. Everybody have an enjoyable weekend, and I will see you next Friday on Blab. Next Friday on Nissan. I will be back on Monday on Periscope and Blab as when I come in. Thanks, Louie. Appreciate it, man. Thanks, Jamie. I won't hang up on you.
You're tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, My Life, My Will with Gisela DiCarlo, The Tanya Love Show, Health Then with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Triangle Be Well with Howard Jacobson, Lunch and Learn with Rabbi Yisrael Cutler, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, Parent Dome with Ryan Miller, Current Affairs with Amnon Nissan. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.